This is recorded. I know your time is just as precious. So Sarah, you have it recording at this point. For everyone that is here, you can check to see we have 9 participants at this point. Our purpose then will be sharing this out to you along with the slides that our assessment unit has put together. So the purpose of this for sure is to show that there is accountability with learning in our state. There is a request from the Department of Education from my office to waive this state assessment for 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. That would not necessarily impact the ACT because it is looked at a little bit more uniquely than those other grades that I had shared. But we do need to have public comment, and we need to have the awareness and being transparent in the state of what we do. Also, as just another bite of information, no state dollar goes into an assessment at the state level. We receive $3.6 million annually from the federal government, and we are the lowest amount that is allotted to states. And it is because of our A and B or our enrollment numbers that is the case. So with that, Dwayne, our expert, if you would like to begin, please do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. I am going to thank you for the opportunity to speak to all of you today, but I'm going to put a link here in the chat box that should be coming through to everyone that refers to the document that I will be referencing throughout the course of this brief presentation. And just to give you a little bit of an overview, I appreciate the opportunity to share this information, and it's like Madam Superintendent mentioned, it's around the Montana strategic waivers, around the increased flexibility for that state testing, accountability, and reporting. I wanted to cover some of that information for you, provide context, and also provide the opportunity to answer any questions, collect any concerns, any comments you may have in response to this process. If we have any remaining time and you have any interest in such, we can also address any kind of with that shortened blueprint on that ELA math grades 3 through 8 statewide assessments and how that shortened blueprint emphasizes a balanced assessment system. But jumping into just providing the context for this, start by addressing those challenges facing the collection of valid and reliable data as a direct result of the coronavirus. So the first one we look at is the first challenge we obviously face is collecting any data and how to equitably do so, given the concerns around access for students who are in a remote learning environment. And then assuming we have collected some data from the statewide assessments, we must also be cognizant of any students not included in any of that data when interpreting reports. And then how to use that test data from any large scale tests kind of needs to be front and center of any conversation around testing itself. And then the last point here on this slide assesses capacity, and it really involves assessing those remote learners being a logistical challenge due to access concerns, maintaining test security in a remote environment. So that's just kind of looking at the larger challenges we have around statewide assessments, and then looking here in the response. The first response here obviously is the main focus of this presentation is the waivers, the 2021 strategic waivers are centered around testing, accountability, and reporting, which will be the main focus. And then looking at the grades 3 through 8 math and ELA assessments, which will have a long-term shortened blueprint. And then finally looking to extend any testing windows, provide more opportunity whenever possible to alleviate some of those concerns around ensuring the greatest amount of participation. So that I provide you those first 2 slides as kind of the context in which we talk about strategic waivers. And I'm going to shift to specifically addressing the strategic waiver process. So OPI recognizes that the novel, the coronavirus pandemic, i.e. COVID, poses many new challenges, and it's seeking maximum flexibility and options under ESSA. And the waivers currently being sought are under ESSA Section 8401 and address, like I'd mentioned, statewide testing, reporting, and accountability. And the timeline in that link that I sent you includes kind of a comprehensive view of this process. In there, there's a link for outlined titled Montana Strategic Waiver Actions Timeline. And that really what it does is it details the state activities that led to Superintendent Arnson's decision in making the waiver process available here. And I provided that for you. And so in short, public comment ends January 28th. OPI plans to submit their strategic waivers to the U.S. Department of Education February 5th. And so then the U.S. Department of Education has up to 120 days to respond to that waiver request. And we have, once the waiver, if the waiver request is granted by the department, it would require that approval from the board, Board of Public Education. And there, so therefore, we also recognize that the state and school districts can't act on these strategic waiver efforts until determination has been made by the department, U.S. Department of Ed and the board. So that's kind of that context. And what we're looking within it, the purpose of the waivers here remains the priority to protect the health and safety of staff and students. We know the pandemic continues to pose significant challenges for states, districts, schools, and while also affecting all of us on a personal level. So the OPI's immediate state actions, such as expanding those testing windows, medical exemptions for COVID reasons, and a shortened blueprint for the Smarter Balanced assessment, all of which are likely not enough to support all Montana schools during these trying times. So in Montana, we know that many students and families have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic. And as such, it raises concerns around fairness and equity of state assessments, accountability and reporting under ESSA. So it continues to be difficult for public schools to provide, it will continue to be difficult for us to provide standardized conditions under which all students are expected to test. So if you look at, in that spirit of equity and equal access for all students around a high quality education, you kind of ensuring that most vulnerable students are accounted for first and prioritize those resources towards the mission of serving those most vulnerable student population during these times is kind of the context within this, the waiver request here. So in Montana, just for context, if you look at K-12 public schools here in the state, student racial ethnic distribution, roughly 78% white, 11% Native American, 5% Hispanic, with 4% two or more races and less than 1% Asian, Black, or Pacific Islander. And as we all know here in the Treasure State, we embody a rich culture that are held, a lot of different cultures held by many citizens, including specific cultures of each of the 12 sovereign tribes across the state. So although Montana only has 1 million citizens, the rate of COVID-19 infections per capita is among the highest here. And then in particular, Native Americans, they have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic. And then just recent report by the Department of Public Health and Human Services, Native Americans account for almost a quarter of Montana's total COVID cases and deaths from the virus. So the strategic waivers which we're offering, you're currently, like I said, they are in public comment, in the public comment phase, will be so through the end of, or through January 28th. And if you look at the reason we're meeting here with it, bringing this to you today is, it is imperative that we hear from tribal representatives, communities, Native perspectives on these requirements around state testing, accountability, and reporting provisions under ESSA. So, your participation allows the OPI here to fully understand kind of those current impacts and conditions that Native students and staff are facing. It also allows us to hear what concerns, comments, ideas you have to address these federal requirements and do our best to support tribal communities. So there's a couple of ways you can share your concerns or comments. First of all, anything, providing comments or concerns here in your time today. You can also complete the public comment survey, which is provided in the link in the website, and the link I provided for you here at the beginning of this session. You can attend, we have strategic waiver webinars ongoing. There will be one on the 21st of January as well as the 28th of January. And those usually occur around 3:30 in the afternoon and are scheduled through 5 o'clock. or you can send comments to us at essainput@montana.gov. And so what I'd like to do is just kind of turn the floor over to you guys and ask with that, what questions do you have on this process? Any comments, concerns that I will, I'll address the best I can. I think with the team here, we can address those questions to the, and if not, I can also take them back to Director McGrath and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Dwayne. I want to thank you for your succinct presentation. And the other part, there's no test after this, right? Joke. There is no assessment on any of the factual information that you've given, but I thank you very much. Misty Cool, we are going to be having a discussion with the governor and his governor's representation. I'm sure it's going to be you as well as possibly Mr. Opal with our experts that will be leading this discussion as Director McGrath was annotated. So we're trying to check all the boxes to make sure. It seems like a short window, but we're trying to get everybody's input as possible with this. I see that we have Representative Windy Boy on. Thank you very much for attending. I've had a very busy day. You have had. Any questions you might have regarding assessments for our tribal children or just for the statewide assessment, that we are seeking a waiver from the federal government to not have that mandated test benchmark, look for any growth or anything, because we firmly believe not only have all of our children across the state been impacted, but those specifically, as Dwayne just mentioned, 1/4 of the population of Montana has been disproportionately affected by this virus. So Representative Windy Boy, any questions you might have?
Yeah, I guess the question that I have would be with these assessments for this this school year, the standardized testing, whatnot, that's being required and whatnot. Has there been any type of action, waiver, or is it still a go ahead with a low rate of participation?
Dwayne, I'll let you go ahead and answer that. You probably have some history on participation, possibly of our tribal children. If not, we can gather that for that. This is a waiver at this point from the federal government for that mandated test not to occur this spring. The test window opens in March, and we are seeking a waiver from that, was what I had also done last spring when COVID first came onto our state and across our nation. With that, Dwayne, if you'd like to add any more, please.
Yes, I think that covers it very well. As far as we have Representative Windy Boy, we have a lot of these options here. That the reason we are here today is asking for comments and concerns around the position of having the waiver itself. And we do have one of the contingency plans we do have in place is we are currently in the process of offering a medical exemption for COVID-19. So before we had medical exemptions previously, but those medical exemptions were, these are more broad ranging COVID-19 medical exemptions that would allow students, for example, districts, the responsibility of the districts would be to offer these assessments if, going forward until the waiver is granted and once it has been approved, or as such, once we have that process, we're currently, that would be our contingency plan. And I don't know if that directly addresses your question, because it's kind of a two-part component, right, in addressing here. The first being the waivers, and then the second one is that contingency of until we hear back. So does that?
Exactly.
Yeah, that it does. It goes into a second question I have here is that, this new variant of this COVID thing that happened in Colorado and now California and whatnot, and just like the COVID-19, it will eventually hit Montana. Is there any type of mediation plan that Montana has, or at least looking towards, or anything like that for the kids? Because I understand that that one is going to hit hit the kid population even more so than the other one.
Thank you, Representative. Misty Cool, if you could take it back to, I believe, I can't pronounce Charlie's name, his last name, that is the governor's healthcare policy individual. But if you would take that back to the coronavirus task force and the governor specifically on how we're going to work with variations of the virus within our state and how it will affect populations different than what we currently have information flow from. Thank you. Excellent. Any other further questions from anyone else on the phone? Those of you that, and Angela, thank you so much. I don't know if you would like to share anything about the ACT with the representative or anyone else that's on, since this is a recording and all will be receiving this.
Oh, sure. Thank you, Madam Superintendent. That would be great. Representative Windy Boy, I can see your name. So great to hear your voice. I can't see your face, but it is great to hear your voice. So we partner with the Office of Public Instruction on making sure that all of Montana's high school juniors can take the ACT at no cost to them or their families. And I was really delighted to just hear your question about the pandemic and even the COVID-19, because we worked really well with the superintendent and her team last spring when schools were shut down, and the ACT was not required then, and it would not be required for students this fall for the high school seniors who would have been last year's juniors who missed the test. And we partnered with the superintendent to allow for this year's seniors who missed out on that opportunity to take the ACT this fall at no cost to them or their families. And we had about 6,600 seniors take advantage of that opportunity. Unfortunately, a number of our students in Indian country couldn't take advantage of that opportunity. And the folks at OPI in our office are working with those school districts where we can to see if they can't take it this spring, along with the juniors who will also be assessed, just because so many students did take us up on that offer for the test this fall, and there was an interest and there remains an interest on the part of so many high school seniors and their school administrators. So we're doing everything in our power to make sure that everybody wants the test and have the opportunity to take it. Additionally, we're working with the superintendent's office to make sure that the ACT will continue to be provided for this year's high school juniors. We at the Montana University System suspended the requirement for the ACT or the SAT for our admissions process up through September 1st of 2021. So even while it wasn't required, we still had 6,600 seniors take it this fall, and we anticipate as many students, if not more, depending on COVID circumstances, to take it this spring. I know that the ACT and conversations around that are a little bit different than the Smarter Balanced conversations. But right now we're teeing up an ACT that will happen statewide for all of Montana's high school juniors beginning at the end of March. So I hope that covers what you would have had me cover on that, Madam Superintendent.
Thank you. I very much appreciate, and again, shouting out the partnership because it is so important. I believe in a P20 system, and that relationship is extremely important. Thank you, Angela. Any other further questions that there might be, Representative? This will be sent to you along with the slides and the link if you have any public comment that you would like to make. And of course, Dwayne, who is our great expert here that shared this information, his number will be included to be able to answer any further questions you might have.
Sounds good. I have not a question, maybe not a question, but if there's a question, my comment that I have to Angela. First of all, thank you for that information, Angela. Since the first time we met is way back about 16 years ago when I sat on the Board of Public Ed for Schweitzer's for his position there. you recall I raised an issue at that time, and I'm still wrestling with that same issue. And you know what that one was? Is that's the tribal college credit transfer to the university system. So just giving you a heads up that I do have some DPs that I'm putting in there to not only do that, but to also make note that there's a DP in there to for the university system in Montana to start moving toward the curriculum of linguistics with the focus on the 10 languages in the state of Montana. We're losing our languages too fast and too quick. Giving you an example of Rocky Boy, we have 7,000 total enrolled members, 4,000 residents. In 23, when the language program started, we had 168 fluent speakers. Today, we're down to 50. And this is the trend that we're having. If we don't start doing more towards that direction, we're going to be witnessing extinction of language in the state of Montana right before our eyes. So I just want, like I said, it's probably not a question, but a comment, since I see that you have OCHI under your name.
Representative Wendy Boy, Madam Superintendent, I really appreciate the comment and the concern. And I have put my cell phone number in the chat, as well as my email, and perhaps you and I can visit. And I look forward to that. And I look forward to watching as things progress here during this legislative session. And I'm hoping that we can visit sooner rather than later. And I really appreciate your leadership.
Definitely. And as you all know on the call here, know that what I've discussed has been my priority. And I am going to make, I'm not going to be here forever. This is my 10th session, but I'm going to move more aggressively than I've ever done before. And now that I've recently been appointed to the Legislative Finance Committee yesterday, it's going to be even more aggressive.
Excellent. And I guess I could just say, bring it, you know,
Yep.
Bring it. And I very much appreciate your passion. If there are no other questions, Dwayne, thank you so much. And all the other OPI experts that are here, we are here to serve. We are here to make sure that every single student across our state, every teacher, every community is embraced with the tools that they need, and to make sure that we all put our students first, whoever they are. So Representative, thank you for your precious time today. And all of you, please stay well. Thank you. Bye-bye.